Hello everyone, welcome to the Angry Post. I am your host, Angry Mamba. I'm joined by WTF Anime, my boys Steve and Dave.
What's going on, everyone?
Hello, hello.
Thank you for tuning in for our last podcast. I hope everyone did enjoy it. We spoke about southern food, and we heard about the green code of the code of the green llama. So this time we're actually going to be taking a step back and going into some Star Wars. What ifs and could it be better? We're going to be going into the subject of Anakin Skywalker and who would be the better teacher for him and what was the downfall of his teachings. So we're going to start, honestly, with we're going to start with Anakin himself. You guys want to lead in here with this?
Yeah, I'll go. Anakin, ever since we knew who he was in the original trilogy, ever since the whole scene where, he revealed that he was the father of Luke, we didn't really know much about him, except for the fact that, what Obi-Wan said, where he was, a Jedi Knight, that was seduced by the dark side. Now we got into the prequels, it was kind of cool seeing, his story and how he went on that journey from being just a slave, to a Jedi Padawan, to a knight, and then to his downfall, which was the Sith Lord we know and love, Darth Vader. It's kind of like a cluster of mixed feelings, in my opinion, about him. Ever since we saw the, episode 2 and episode 3, we actually got to see him fight. In my opinion, he was a great fighter. The only problem is, though, is he tapped into a lot of his feelings, which, as we know in the Jedi lore, you don't do that. But that climax battle and that confusion he had in Revenge of the Sith, I thought was perfect, in my opinion, because you got to see, his seduction kind of under the radar to where the Jedi Council couldn't sense it, until Palpatine finally revealed who he was and then brought him over as Darth Vader.
Everything just kind of worked out, perfectly in that sense, because it was all the pieces truly coming together and the cog kind of ticking away and really becoming what I guess you could say what it was.
Well, and to me, Anakin's one of those characters in the Star Wars universe that was very conflicted. We saw that in Return of the Jedi, where he was talking to his son, and you could tell that, the good that was inside of him, where he's like, it's too late for me, son. That's when you saw the actual Anakin. And then what people don't know is there's a scene after Luke gets taken away by the troopers up to the shuttle to head to the Death Star to confront the Emperor. You could just see that emotion of Vader leaning over that rail in the hangar, or the landing platform. And you're just like, okay, and the whole fight in Return of the Jedi with Anakin was crazy, because you could tell he really didn't want to fight his son, but he had to. He had no choice. Until the very end, where he's like, you were right. You were right, there was good in me. Which
I personally think also with that fight, it was Anakin and Vader both taking their sides, specifically when they're during that fight, which why I don't think he's that focused when he was fighting Luke. He's like, I need to fight him, but we can't do this though. And the conflict between both, it slowed his concentration down, and a lot of times it broke. It made him do things that he normally wouldn't do in a fight. Like his fight with him on Cloud City was much more Vader on that side.
Well, he was, and again, Vader in that fight, which by far that's my favorite fight in the original trilogy, was the duel on Cloud City. But you could tell Vader knew that was his son, but he was toying with him until the very end, right before that main sequence where he had enough of Luke's bullshit, and that's when you start to fight more, a bit more aggressively, and you're just like, oh yeah, crap.
Because when he starts off with just one hand, in fencing and in any kind of sword art, primarily when you're doing one-handed, you're basically toying with your target. You're not really actively engaging your target.
Right.
You're more just toying with them and kind of messing with them in a sense of haha, look, this is the way I could fight you.
Well, and I think, too, that they captured that perfectly from the prequels, in my opinion, after going back and watching the movies, was pretty much Luke at Empire was similar to Anakin in Attack of the Clones, where he's trying to show off. Yeah. And even Vader made it clear, like, you're not a Jedi yet. And then, Luke was like, oh, well, I'm full of surprises. And you could tell just by Anakin/Vader, like, he was like, okay, I'm going to put you to the test. And then the scene where, Luke was kind of, Vader kind of wore him down before he chopped off his hand, you could tell, like, one, he's like, all right, you're not ready. You need more training, kind of. And then when he cut off his hand, that's kind of like father, like son, like, I lost my arm in the Battle of Dooku, now it's your turn. Kind of, you know what I'm saying?
Pretty much, he bit off more than he can chew.
Pretty much.
I think he knew that when Vader actually... He pinned him down the first time, and he had his lightsaber to his throat, and he literally said, like, "You're not ready."
Well, and also too with Anakin. Yeah.
So okay. Side tangent, real quick. We all know there is a history in Star Wars. None of us can deny this. There is a history in Star Wars of somebody taking somebody else's hand. So somebody put together a nice little tally chart of who took whose hand. So, like...
I mean, honestly, looking at this, dude, I just love that smug grin that Hayden has as Anakin, where it's like, I took my son's hand.
So you have Anakin, who took Dooku's right, Dooku's left, Windu's right, and Luke's right.
And then going to Kenobi, you have Zam's right hand, Grievous' lower right and left. Okay, well, he's a droid, but I don't know if that counts. Anakin's left and Ponda's right. What's funny about the Ponda's right is that's from the original trilogy in the Cantina, which I thought was just perfect. Now, what I love is my boy Luke here. He took off the Wampa's right hand, well, arm-ish, and then he took off his daddy's right hand, And then poor Dooku and well...
A lot of right hands.
Yeah, there's a lot of right hands. I'm noticing a trend here.
Well, because, if you look, that's how they hold their sabers.
Because Dooku took Anakin's right and Mace Windu took Jango's right.
Did he? I thought he took Jango's head.
He also took his head, but we're only counting hands.
He cut it off, like, right, his portion, before he started running to him to behead him, he actually took off his hand.
Damn.
That's right.
Yeah.
Yeah, because he was holding out his gun and...
But no, and like back on subject real quick with Anakin, like, what people don't give him credit for was, like, he was actually a good fighter when it came to lightsaber. And what I like about, the canon comics, though, is the fact, like, you could, in the newer Star Wars comics that Marvel produced that they don't produce anymore, there's a scene where it takes place right after the Battle of Yavin. So Luke and the Rebels just destroyed the first Death Star. Well, Luke and Leia had to do some sort of mission, and they run into Vader. And Luke's like, all right, cool, whatever, fine. And he, tries to take on Vader. Vader, wrecks shop. And then Leia comes in, takes Luke's lightsaber, which they didn't know they were related at this time, and then tried fending off Vader. Well, let's fast forward to the comics a little bit, where Luke actually does confront Vader again. But it's like in some sort of like, hallway. I don't know if it's on an Imperial ship or what, but like,
That was on an Imperial ship.
It was an Imperial ship. Okay. Again, it's been a while since I read the comics. I just know, memory loss, all that shit. I'm getting old. But but Vader actually held on to the saber, and he was like, "This lightsaber, can it be?" And you could tell like Anakin's memories are coming back to when he was a Jedi, which I thought that was smooth writing, But
makes sense.
Yeah, but overall, I mean, people say Anakin was a whiny bitch. I mean, yes and no, but
he was young. He was young. He was undertrained. He was ill prepared.
Yeah,
like you look at everything that happened. It was the perfect storm. It really was the perfect storm to sit there and have him go the way he did to the dark side. And that, I guess, that kind of segues into his training, which is the point of this whole discussion. So
before we do get to that, I want to let's jump into his jump into the Phantom Menace when we first actually meet him. And one thing that Qui-Gon says to Anakin's mother that I like a lot is that he said, "Your son is very he's very selfless. Like he gives without asking reward."
Right.
And that's one thing that the Qui-Gon saw, but the Jedi Order didn't, because that's actually how the Jedi Order was supposed to be. They're supposed to be selfless, and they're supposed to not seek reward.
Right.
And
if you keep in mind, remember, Qui-Gon even asked Shmi Skywalker, like, who was the father? Mm-hmm. And she's like, there was no father. And if I was Qui-Gon, I would have been like, okay, that's a red flag. Because there was only one Sith Lord ever to actually control life, and that was Plagueis, the Wise.
Yeah.
So that kind of was like,
well,
okay.
And here's my thing, leading into a side tangent of mine and Dave's, is, in all honesty, like, move over there so that we can see you easier. Yeah. Sorry, but like, here's where we can deviate to a side tangent of mine and Dave's, because I have a feeling the Jedi Council saw it. They saw it and they understood it. And honestly, from the look on most everybody's faces, they were going to begrudgingly accept the training. Begrudgingly. Until one person opened up his effing mouth.
And that was Ki-Adi-Mundi, yeah.
Who was a Jedi Knight serving on the council. He was not a master.
He had no say. He had no say.
Why did they listen to him if he had no proper say in that?
Well, let's jump into the fact that even Yoda agreed to it, because remember, Yoda could actually see, the Force inside. So he could have been like, okay, he might be just a tad bit old, but he can do it. Because remember, in Phantom Menace, young Anakin aced the test. Because he used the Force, and he's like a cup, a speeder, all that crap. So it's like, to me, okay, he's in.
And if to anybody who actually watches Rebels, and anybody who saw when Ezra actually talked to Yoda the first time, Yoda asked him, like, why do you want to be a Jedi? And he gave his honest answers, and Yoda said, I sense something different. And it wasn't until he actually started talking about his friends that he actually gave out his true motives, and you understood that. And that was, I think, something that Yoda actually developed after the fall of the Jedi, because he was almost pretty much against Anakin getting trained. And then once everything all went the way it did, he saw the same thing in Ezra as well, because Ezra was, I think, 3 or 4 years older.
Well, yeah, plus Yoda was the one that gave him the Kyber Crystal. The blue Kyber Crystal. He's like, yeah, your path is to do this. And, off Rebels real quick, though, back to, like, Phantom Menace, is the fact that you got to keep in mind, too, not all the Masters saw it. Because, remember, at that time, Sidious / Palpatine was clouding the visions of the Jedi.
Yeah.
So, like, if Sidious didn't do his dirty work, then the Council, even Ki-Adi-Mundi, they'd be like, all right, bitch, like, you have no say in this. Cool, we're going to train you. And you gotta think too that at that time Obi-Wan was ready to be a knight, because he did what he did.
He had passed his trials.
Well, I think at that time he was about to take the trials, but then again the council could have overrid that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, they had in the past. I mean, Qui-Gon never took the trials, and he became a Jedi Master.
Yeah.
So like, that makes perfect logical sense. But getting back on track. The council saw the boy. They agreed to, they after Qui-Gon's death, they agreed to begrudgingly train him, and then this is where, in my opinion, like the path of it starts to go downhill.
Right? Yeah.
Because I don't think, and
I think we all agree on this, that Obi-Wan was not the right teacher.
No,
and
like, you're right.
Personally, I don't think he was ready yet.
He was not. He had so much to learn, though. Like, because it was kind of like a quick promotion for Obi-Wan.
Yeah.
Because after his master's death, like, he even stood up to Yoda like, no, I will train the boy after Master Qui-Gon's words. Now, if you ask me, there's only 2 Jedi Masters that should have trained Anakin. Okay? Now, hear me out. Mace Windu, for one, because he was a strict teacher, and he did know how to use the light and the dark side, which would have benefited Anakin completely, and Plo Koon. Because Plo Koon was one of those masters who was strict, but he was strict in the point where he would guide you, You know what I'm saying? He was there training. Like if you messed up, he was like, all right, boy, get up and do it again. You know, which is why sidebar to Rebels or Clone Wars, where instead of having Ahsoka be Anakin's Padawan, Plo should have seen her training through.
Oh yeah, most definitely. He's the one who discovered her.
Yeah, he's the one that found her.
He was the one who discovered her.
And didn't he, real quick, didn't he actually convince her race to like, hey, this little girl, Ahsoka, has so much potential to do great.
Yeah. He should have saw through her training and whatnot. But like when it comes to Obi-Wan training Anakin, I don't think he was ready. I don't think he had the mental capabilities. And then one of the most annoying parts about that whole thing for me is really the fact that if you look at the data, pure and raw, all right, is that he did not sit there and foster the things that Anakin was good at. He was good at caring for things.
Yeah.
He was good at sitting there and manipulating the Force. He was good at reading things through the Force. And
also too, like the reason why I think Obi-Wan was the downfall of Anakin was, in my opinion, Obi-Wan should have ratted Anakin out to the council like, hey, he married Padme, she's having a kid. Like, because that would have ended his reign real quick, and then...
Because Obi-Wan wasn't stupid, he knew.
Yeah, he knew. He knew, but he didn't say shit, which that's why he was more of like a big brother to Anakin, and they explained that Revenge of the Sith, and it's like, no, you're his master, you're not... Yes, you could be his friend, but you're not like his like family, dude. Like, I get it, you cared for the boy since he was just a little pipsqueak, but like... You know, come on, man, do your job.
and what the thing I'm touching this recently, Dave Filoni actually spoke about this when with the Duel of the Fates that would happen in the Phantom Menace. He explained that that Qui-Gon was the perfect person to teach him, because at that time in Phantom Menace, he knew something was wrong and knew that the Jedi were slowly getting that descent.
Yeah, that's why they called him the Maverick Jedi, because like when the council gave him, I know we're off Anakin, but when the council, you know, was really strict on him, he goes, "This ain't right. I'm gonna do what the fuck I have to do to get shit done."
Yeah.
You know, and like. I totally agree. Like, he should have, if he would have lived, he would have been one of the perfect masters for Anakin.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Because he was like, listen, dude, like, you know, your destiny is here, fulfill it, listen to my teachings, you'll be good to go.
For me, for Qui-Gon, he's the embodiment of three specific teachers. One of them you actually picked would be a perfect teacher for Anakin. He has Yoda's sense and wisdom in the Force. He's strict, but not too strict like Mace Windu. And he's able to connect with people, and not only with Jedi, like Obi-Wan was. Like Obi-Wan he's friendly, and he's able to connect with people very, very easily, which is why he was so liked among the Order, because he's not off-putting. Like, he's not off-putting like Yoda and Mace. He's very open with who he is, and he's very accepting.
Well, and that brings me to my next point. Like, even in Revenge of the Sith, when like Anakin was having a sissy fit, you know, like, wow, this is ridiculous, I'm not a master. You know, Obi-Wan should have stood up and like, sit down now. You know, because like that's his master, and he pretty much was like, do not disrespect us like that. You know. And I kind of do agree with Windu, like, in the council, like, not giving him his rank of master, because think about it.
I completely agree.
Yeah, think about it, because if he was a master and he went dark, oh, bro, like, it would have been worse than what we saw on film.
I think people cut Obi-Wan too much credit sometimes, because he was not the master. He may have been a good master to somebody else, but he was not the master that Anakin needed. He did not service the needs of Anakin properly.
Right.
Because Anakin was a very particular type of student. And so I'm going to use this as a segue
Mm-hmm.
into something that you wanted to talk about.
Yeah.
So I'm going to lead the charge here on this. Let's discuss who we think would have been the perfect master for Anakin. And here are the fine points that I'm going to bring up, and then everybody brings up their fine points, and then we'll start picking masters.
Gotcha.
So here's the fine points I want to bring up. All right. First off, to me, this is just what I read from Anakin, from reading the books, from watching the movies, from reading the comics. All right. Anakin is very caring. He's diligent in his Force studies. He was bullied by the other Padawans for being too old. He also was really a runt of the litter.
Yeah, that's right. Yep.
And my final point that I want to bring up is that he excelled in the violence of the Force because that's what was pushed on him.
Yeah, because if I remember correctly, like he actually like attacked one of the bullies, like went full on. I forget what masters broke him up. It's one of the important ones of the council, yeah. But like, it was to the point where even like at that time, they spoke to Obi-Wan, was like, "Whoa,"
yeah,
and it was like, okay. So anyway,
right.
continue.
What are your points?
For me, he needed to be, he needed to have an understanding of what the Jedi was, because from what we hear in Phantom Menace, he has this very over-gloricized vision of what the Jedi are. Mm-hmm. He believed they were immortal defenders of the Republic, and Qui-Gon says, like, I wish that were true, but it's not.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And also for him to have this way of not only understanding what the Force is, but understanding that this is the life that you're going into. It's going to be very different from what you've heard. Because this is this life that you have, and Qui-Gon knew better than anyone. Like this isn't an easy.
Qui-Gon explained it to him. He goes, "Listen, Anakin, like this isn't going to be easy. Remember?
Yeah.
When he was about to leave. Anyway.
And also, I also feel like they needed to like Steve pointed out, they needed to point out the fact that he was excelled at caring for things. So, and I think you also pointed this out last time we spoke. They needed to give him a responsibility of taking care of something.
Yeah.
Whether it be instructing younglings, whether it be taking care of the plant life, something that would occupy his mind that gave him the chance to care.
I said he should have taken care of the animals.
That would have been a perfect example.
It would have been perfect for him. He could have taken care of
Well, even that or the droids. I mean, he built 3PO, and he knows he's a mechanic. Remember? Because the pod racer, he could easily like maintain the droids.
The only reason I agree, but I also disagree. The only reason why I disagree is because they can't show emotion back. Because an animal or a youngling or something like that is going to show that emotion of appreciation back. Yeah. Because not every droid is like R2. Because let's face it. One of the running things about Star Wars that's often noted is that R2's personality matrix is broken. Which is the only reason why he's so expressive as he is. Because most other R2 units aren't like that.
No, and I agree.
There's one major thing that Qui-Gon mentions and that Obi-Wan mentions as his teacher that I don't think is the fault of Obi-Wan, because Qui-Gon pointed out too when he was a kid, and this is one of the most important things I think that he needed to learn was patience.
Yes.
Yeah.
Because he was very, very impatient, and you see that even as a kid. Like when Qui-Gon comes back on the ship after fighting Darth Maul, Anakin's flipping his ship. Like, what are we gonna do? What does this mean? What are we gonna do? And Qui-Gon literally says, "We're gonna be patient. We're gonna figure out what's going on.
Right. And we got to find out who this is."
Exactly. Yeah. And that's what I liked about Qui-Gon. He didn't jump to he didn't flip the script. He was incredibly patient with his students. And even when he said he was going to take Anakin as his Padawan, he told the council, Obi-Wan's ready for the trials. He still has things to learn, but he's ready for the trials. And that's the one thing you'll also get out of the Qui-Gon the most, is that he's going to be very truthful about what he says. If he does not believe you're not ready, you're not ready. If he says like you're not ready for trials, you're not ready. And that's the one thing I saw in all three movies that Qui-Gon, Obi-Wan, and Yoda saw as well that he was not patient, and that he needed somebody who was going to be patient with him, and that turn will make him more patient.
Yeah, and that would have calmed his emotions, even in the meditation in Revenge of the Sith, or even in, what was it, in Episode 1, he goes, Yoda's like, your feelings, and that's when Kiadi, the asshole who led the downfall of the Jedi, pretty much was like, oh, is it because of your mother? And Anakin's like, yeah. And I think, go ahead, finish what you're going, I'll bring this up in a second.
No, honestly, I think that was pretty much like understanding the Jedi life, understanding the Force, and patience. That's pretty much what I have.
All right.
So, okay, for me,
yeah.
Well, I have a couple things. You guys might disagree on a few of them, but screw it. One is they should have, the Jedi or like Obi-Wan or whoever, should have pretty much made him do stuff like study more to chill out, to calm his emotions. Because I think he was very emotional even as a kid because he was away from his mom.
Yeah.
And like if they would have put him like, hey, study the archives, learn about kyber crystals, learn about, the Force, I think that would have calmed him down quite a bit. So like when we see him later on, he wasn't, all, emotional.
Yeah.
Second, they should have advanced him, put him in advanced classes, if you ask me. Because think about it, the Jedi knew he was good. Even if he was a youngling, move him up. Start him a little bit earlier so he knows how to do stuff. And like you guys were saying, like if he took advanced classes, he could watch over the younglings.
Yeah.
And he could train him a little bit, And the third thing is he needed to, I agree with you on the patience because he kind of needed to chill out quite a bit, but he needed to, ask questions. Ask questions to the other masters so he could learn more. Because I think he didn't do that. I think, as we saw him later on, like in Revenge of the Sith, even Obi-Wan says it, you're a celebrity. Like, I think he took fame, since he was like the greatest of the Jedi, I think he took that fame to his head and started becoming reckless.
You see that in Clone Wars, he is in the Clone Wars, he's respectful, but he's reckless. And even when the last few episodes of the Clone Wars, when Yoda actually leaves the Jedi Temple, he says like you're an expert at disobeying the Council. So this is why I'm asking you out of everyone. I didn't ask.
Oh God, that was so funny.
Like I didn't ask Mace. I didn't even ask Obi-Wan, who probably at that point cared for him the most, and literally said like I'm asking you to get me out of here.
Well, and the thing too, like with Anakin, man, is like honestly he should have just came clean. He goes, yeah, I did marry Padme. Yes, we're expecting, but I'm not gonna let that get in the way of my duties.
Yeah.
Because again, she's a senator, so she's up there. So like Mace and them would have been like, oh, okay, cool.
Somebody on the council who's on their side.
Yeah.
On the Senate who's on their side.
Exactly. Because, Padme was, on the side of the Jedi. But I'm going to fast forward to a little bit, like back to what we were saying with Obi-Wan. So, as we saw old Ben in episode 4, you could tell, like, he wanted to train Luke better than he did Anakin because he fucked up with Anakin. Yeah. So, like, that's why I love that line or the scene where they're in Ben's hut and he's like, yeah, I was a Jedi Knight the same as your father. And, like, you could tell what Luke's like, do you know my father? Stuff like that. And you could see that look of Obi-Wan like, oh shit, like, what do I do? Because it's like you could tell Obi-Wan did not want to tell the truth.
Not the full
truth. Yeah. Because he's like, oh crap, this is Luke's kid. I saw him, as I saw his birth. And I think the whole segment where Obi was transitioning, like telling him, like, oh, he was the best pilot in the galaxy. He was a space freighter. He was, a good friend of mine.
He wasn't lying about that. He was.
Yeah, he was a great pilot. Yeah. He was one of the best. And then I think, Owen said Anakin was a space freighter pilot, but like Owen's like, oh, he was, he was a Jedi. He was a great friend of mine. And then like that whole thing where, oh, he was betrayed. He was killed by Vader. Kind of like not realizing like he was Vader.
I guess this also segues into, we've been so critical on Obi now, like, let's look at who was active on the council.
Yeah.
All right.
Oh man.
And let's
this is gonna be fun for me.
Let's pick a new Let's pick a new trainer. So, Raheem, like pick a new trainer. Who do you see? And we're probably going to get 3 different answers on this. And mine's probably going to be the one that's going to be least.
I mean, you already know who mine is, so I'm sticking to it.
I have 3 options.
Okay.
One of them, you two are definitely going to disagree on. One of them you'll probably agree on, and the other is probably a surprise, a little bit of a surprise. The surprise one is Kid Fisto.
I agree.
Yeah.
I agree.
Kid Fisto's good.
I agree because he was one of the good ones. He was one of the greats. Like that's why Mace had Fisto in his little posse, because the thing that everyone oversees is the fact that, number one, Fisto gave the Jedi the technology to make their lightsabers work underwater, which was a big advantage.
Technology.
2, Fisto's race was an ally of the Republic, and they were strong fighters, right? And second, he was a very strong Force user. So,
okay. What's your other 2?
The second one is Plo Koon.
I agree.
Okay.
I agree.
Plo Koon.
And the final one, which you guys are probably going to disagree with, is Yoda.
Yeah, I disagree with you.
Yeah, I disagree with Yoda as well. And that's only because Yoda is kind of infamous for teaching a very strict value of the Force.
Yeah.
But here's the thing though. Pick one and make your argument. Pick one and make your argument.
I'm honestly going to go with Yoda. I know you guys don't like it. I know you don't. But
I'm willing to hear your argument.
But here's the thing. A lot of the characters, like you said, he has a very strict teaching style. I say that most because the teachers I've had, I was a very reckless child, very, very rebellious. And it's similar to his. I got in a lot of fights, just like Anakin did. I was not one for listening to my parents. Like I was a very, very rebellious child, and it took one teacher who was very, very hard on me, because I repeated 6th grade, and when I came back to his classroom that following year, he literally made sure that like you understand why you're back here, like you understand why you failed. Now I'm gonna do everything I can to get you where you need to be. Like you failed, you fucked up, but I'm gonna get you where you need to be at. And after Yoda lost to Sidious, and yes, that was considered a loss.
Very hard loss.
He understood failure a whole lot more than he did when he was with the Council. And even anybody who watches the Clone Wars, when he did his trials to become one with the Force.
Yeah, when he went to Dagobah.
Not that part. That part after that.
Oh yeah. Okay, yeah, he was on a weird planet. Okay, yeah.
The sisters said like, what you're gonna go through is gonna be very intense and difficult. And Yoda literally said to them like, I'm a Jedi Master. Like, I'm good. I got this. And even after one trial, he's literally out of breath. He's tired. This isn't about age at this point. This is him like not understanding like I'm too overconfident.
Yeah.
And I am not as patient as I thought I would be. I made bad mistakes, which he learned through those trials. Like I'm fallible.
Yeah.
I make mistakes and I'm not perfect. And that was one thing he didn't understand. And at the end of during the Phantom Menace, he realized that there were problems with the Jedi. They're becoming too sure of themselves. They're becoming overconfident, and they're not sensing the Force as they should. And when he was training Luke, he literally told Luke was very impatient, and Yoda noticed that about he tipped on that when he was talking about Anakin as well. And he understood like impatience is a chance to actually grow to something better. And you also saw that I'm gonna take another tangent off with Jedi Fallen Order. Cal with his master I forgot his name.
He was the race that Zeb was from Rebels. I forget his name.
I forget his name though.
Yeah.
It's something.
Hang on.
Anyway, I know who you're talking about.
But he despite Cal falling up and not making what he was supposed to do, he literally said, keep doing what you're doing. You're gonna fail regardless, and you're gonna fail regardless. But you need to keep getting back up. You need to keep doing better.
Oh, it was Jaro Topal.
Jaro Topal. That's the one.
Yeah.
And that's honestly what Yoda was. He was a teacher who saw failure as an opportunity to get better.
Yeah.
All right. Okay. Who wants to go next?
I'll go next
All right.
because I think honestly mine is good.
Okay.
Windu, Mace Windu. The reason why I say that, I said it before, is the fact that Windu dabbles in the light and dark side of the Force. So if he actually would have taught Anakin as a youngling and leading him into as his Padawan, he would have been great. Because first off, Windu would have put him through strict training, very hardcore strict training to get him used to what situations.
Yeah.
Second, he would have made Anakin learn more before he decided to build his lightsaber, which would have been a good thing, because if he already built his lightsaber at a young age, that's asking for trouble. Now, with Windu's teachings and all that stuff, Anakin would have learned more about the dark side and not be tempted to that side when he was confronting Palpatine, which, by the way, was a mistake for the Council to send him to do that.
Yeah.
So, and I think he just would have been great. And again, Windu would have just been hammering him hard, making him study, send him on side missions, not actually going out with the Republic Army and the clones, to do hardcore stuff. He probably would have wanted Anakin to be with another master, before he moved up to Mace.
I honestly, I mean, think.
No, you're good.
When they sent Anakin into those fights for the Clone Wars, one of the things that Yoda actually worries people about the dark side is aggression leads to the path of the dark side, and the Jedi during the time of the Clone Wars were also very aggressive.
Right.
Yeah.
And also too, Windu's Force powers would have been so good, he could literally walk up to Anakin and just do this, and he could sense the future and be like, "Oh shit! I gotta stop him. I gotta do something before this happens." And if Windu would have done that, he would have pulled Anakin into the meditation area and listen, is there something you're not telling me? Yeah. I saw your future, and he probably would explain you will be a Sith Lord. This is who you become. And then again, Windu would have known that Palpatine was a Sith. He was Sidious, and that would have been an easy distraction. Easy all right, boys, let's go. And then Palpatine would have been dead, which would have sucked because we wouldn't have got the original trilogy, but it would have been better.
One of the things that I do want to point out that the Jedi Council failed in, and this is what even with Obi-Wan failed in, is that after the Phantom Menace, Anakin's trust in the Council dropped dramatically.
Yeah.
It got to, it wasn't even about his feelings for Padme at that point. It was when it came to telling them things, what they need to, when it came to updating everything, and they even pointed this out in the Clone Wars as well, is that Anakin is worried that Ahsoka hasn't checked in for one of the missions. And at one point, he's like you always check in. He's like, good point. Anakin does not trust the Council. He trusts them to a point of saying what they need to hear.
Right. Yeah, and I think too that the Council kind of knew something wasn't right when they sensed him in Attack of the Clones taking out the entire village of Sand People.
I would have put up Yoda sensed that, and
because
nobody said anything.
Damn know well they sensed that.
Yeah.
And that's what they would have been like, all right, this boy is not right. Because what they could have done is they could have grounded him and strictly confined him to the temple and had him do other shit, But
And also one thing I do want to point out is that
Ki-Adi-Mundi had a big part in that, I will say.
And the thing was also with trust, in the third one, they asked Anakin to, spy on Palpatine and report back to them. When he was doing that, and after that opera scene that they had,
when he told him about the plagues of the wise,
he didn't say any of that to the council, because if they would have heard about that,
I didn't even think of that. Yeah,
if they had heard about that, I'm like, okay, he said those exact words. Okay.
Well, how did he know that story?
Exactly.
Yeah. Well, me and Steve were talking about this the other night, and it's true. Like, there would have been some red flags because Anakin Skywalker is every day is getting called to the Chancellor's office. Like, if I was Windu, I'd be like, what does this old dude want with this guy?
Yeah.
Like, something's not right here. Because if you ask me, the council should have actually had a Jedi follow Anakin. Because they did have those little recorders he could have just thrown on the robe, and then the Jedi could have been listening in. And that's when the whole story at the opera scene with Plagueis the Wise, they'd be like, "All right, we're gonna go wait in his office. It's go time."
Let's hear your pick.
Okay. So my pick might be met with indifference.
Okay.
All right. My pick is Shaak Ti. All right.
I saw the Clone Wars, and I somewhat agree, but
finish. I want to hear this.
Okay, so my thing is yes, Shaak Ti was known for being a warrior, but she was a tempered warrior. She kept herself calm, and she used meditation to balance herself within the Force. I think she could have passed those traits onto Anakin very easily and fostered his nurturing a little bit better.
I agree, but I disagree on one thing though, is because Shaak Ti, from what I saw and read about Shaak Ti, was she was the type, to me, she'd be the type of master where she would teach you, but cool, go do your thing. If you ask me.
That's where I think she would have excelled though. It's because she could have pushed him into hobbies. And I call them hobbies, but let's face it, Jedi don't really have them. But
unless you're Anakin.
Yeah. But she could have pushed him to go off and do other things in the temple.
Fair.
Been okay, well, I'm gonna sit here and leave you for a bit with the animals, and let him sit there.
Well, Shaak Ti, she did have force powers were with life.
Yeah. So she
yeah,
no, you're dead right.
Yeah.
She could have pushed him off easily to go and do things that he could interact with well, and balance himself within the Force better than how he was balanced. And I
see what you're talking about.
And she would have tempered that rage by directing it towards other things. But again, it's a double-edged sword. It's a double-edged sword when it comes to Shaak Ti. Because when it comes time for lightsaber combat, it's going to be unrelenting.
I mean, what do you mean by unrelenting?
Basically, she's not going to suffice for him doing it half-assed.
And
let's face it, Anakin, until he became Vader, and he started having to face all those Jedis, he really wasn't that good at lightsaber combat. He was good, but he wasn't that good.
He was even... He was more athletic.
If his final duel had been against Mace Windu, he would have been fucked.
100%, yeah.
100%. That's my one F-bomb for the whole thing. And he would have been completely screwed because Windu would have taken him to the house.
And the thing and also to put this in there, a lot of the fights now that we have the novels out, Sidious
canon novels.
The canon novels.
Yeah.
Sidious had Dooku and a lot of the other fights go easy on him to either sense his power or to simply hold back.
And that's what I'm going to get to real quick, though, because the whole fight in the beginning of Revenge of the Sith when they're fighting Dooku, you could tell Palpatine had some play. Because, he was cheering on Anakin, yeah. And then when Anakin took off Dooku's hands and had the sabers at his neck, Palpatine had that, that famous line, "Do it." Like, you could tell, like, Anakin was fighting it, his dark side temptation. He goes, I can't do this. I can't do this. And finally, he killed him. And then, remember, after that, he goes, I shouldn't have done that. So, yeah, like, you're right. I think Palpatine had, like,
he definitely had.
Whereas Anakin has Vader in, like, the original trilogy, he's like, no, dude, this is your son. Go full force.
And when they came back after rescuing the Chancellor, Obi-Wan went and reported to the council. Anakin didn't do that, and that to me would have been like, okay, Obi-Wan, we hear your report. I want to hear what happened because you were knocked out. I want to hear what happened after that.
Yeah, because if the council would have heard like Anakin tell them like, oh yeah, I killed Dooku, they'd have been like, Windu would have had a fit. He'd be like, why'd you not arrest him and bring him to us? Like, we could give two shits about his hands. Like, you should have brought him to us.
Yeah, and again, that's how come I think if Anakin had gone up against Mace as his final combat, not against Obi-Wan, like, there's no way Anakin would have come out of that fight.
No, and that's why I was satisfied, though, at the end of Revenge of the Sith, where Obi-Wan's like, don't try it. And then Anakin, was trying to be the big bad, and then lost his legs. And just that scene, though, when he's looking at Anakin, he goes, you could tell, like, he was about to say, you knew this was going to happen. Yeah. Like, I loved you like a brother, which was his big mistake, because you don't, for your Padawan, you're close, but you're not, like, family close. Now, let's move on to fast forward, through Rogue One and all that shit. I have a feeling that some reason Qui-Gon in hiding on Tatooine while he's watching over Luke.
You mean Obi-Wan?
Yeah, Obi-Wan, I'm sorry. Obi-Wan in hiding was talking to Qui-Gon.
He was.
Via the Force.
It's canon.
And Yoda and some of the other masters that he could commune with. And I think he was trying to get intel, like, how do I do this? How do I, like, what do I need to do to, like, take out my former apprentice?
There is something, I believe it's either in the Obi-Wan book or it's something in one of the novels that Qui-Gon actually does come to Obi-Wan. He actually tells him, like, you weren't ready. Like, and he apologizes to
Which
Obi-Wan.
I hope we get that in the Disney Plus show.
He was actually, he said to him, like, you weren't ready, and I apologize to you because you were not ready. I actually did take on this big task of training someone who was essentially going to be the future of the Jedi. And
the chosen one,
and I put this all on your shoulders. And at the point that this happened, when you were barely out of training yourself. You were a knight, but you weren't ready to teach someone.
Well, the thing is, though, Obi-Wan got, like, overnight a quick promotion to knight. And again, he was, like you said, he was not ready. He was not ready to take on Anakin as his Padawan. Like, if you ask me, Obi-Wan should went with another master, learned a little bit more, became a knight, and then took in Annie.
Well, let me put this out to you. The Phantom Menace Obi-Wan was not ready. Was the Revenge of the Sith Obi-Wan ready to take if he had taken Anakin as Padawan, then at Revenge of the Sith one, would he have been a better teacher?
I don't think so.
No?
No, I don't think so.
Okay.
All right. I'm gonna lay. Can I lay down a ground rule?
Go ahead.
All right. Proceeding into our next phase of discussion that I know you wanted to touch upon, and I am the king of segues.
Okay.
I'm gonna set a ground rule.
All right.
All right. The ground rule is from this point onward, we ignore every rule that was set in the sequel trilogy, the Disney sequel trilogy.
Okay.
So we're officially, because even Disney's moving away from their own sequels, which is hysterical to me. But we're gonna ignore every single rule that's been set in there. So no Mary Sue abilities.
Okay.
And
so
yes, I'm gonna catch a lot of flack for that. But Rey is a Mary Sue of a character. I'm sorry.
She's still hot though.
I agree with that 100%.
So we're just gonna stick with 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6.
Precisely.
Okay. Fair with me.
Before I jump into that, even this is something that George Lucas also put out. When it came to the character Rey, he literally said, when it came to her getting her skills and her training, it seemed like everything was essentially given to her.
I'm gonna rant real quick. And Steve, we talked about this, and you're gonna agree. Why in the fucking hell did Kathleen Kennedy not use Lucas's Bible?
Yeah, she has the entire Star Wars Bible,
and it was personally given to her by George himself.
And she placed it in the archives and forgot about it.
Whatever. Sorry, that just pisses me off, because off tangent, you guys might agree, if she would have used that Bible, the Disney trilogy would have been fantastic.
Well, we'll take a 5-minute break away from that, and for people who don't know, you explain what this Bible is to them. We'll take 5 minutes. We'll continue, and
I'll explain it real quick. So what it essentially is George Lucas sat there and he lied, because at the end of the day, he himself has said that the entire sequence of the movies is the story of Anakin Skywalker. So, going into the new trilogy, going into what happens beyond the events of the original trilogy, the Bible that Lucas wrote out, we don't really know everything that's in it, but we do know that was going to be the redemption of Anakin.
Right.
So we had the rise, we had the fall, and then we were supposed to have the redemption of how Luke was going to rebuild the Jedi and whatnot. One of the things that Kathleen Kennedy set out when writing this new story and everything like that was she said that she didn't want it to focus on the original characters. That was her first mistake.
Yeah,
because
agreed.
She sat there and she was fearful, and J.J. Abrams even said this in a recent interview not too long ago, that every time they sat there and they threw Luke into the story, suddenly the attention was focused on Luke. But that's the thing is that whole entire arc should have been focused on Luke, because that was the original direction. That was
right, and you got to see, well, originally you were supposed to see the Jedi Order actually rebuilt.
Yeah.
And it's like, and Luke, and I will give Kathleen some credit, I will say this, she did pull from the expanded universe a bit, which, it wasn't what I wanted, but it was something that made me happy.
I think every single one of us sitting here would have loved to have seen the Yuzong Wong.
Well, you know the theory, right? Between the Death Star 2, was it was supposed to be, and the Emperor built it because he foreseen the Yuzong Wong coming.
Yeah.
And of course, my boys, the Rebels, took it out.
But so that's what the Bible is it's Lucas's map for the entire Skywalker saga of the rise, the fall, and the redemption of Anakin.
There's two things that I wish had happened in the sequel, and a lot of fans feel this the same way. The actor John Boyega actually feels the exact same way. Is that, to me, when they put the poster out for The Force Awakens and you see him with the lightsaber, you naturally 90% assume he's either Force sensitive, he's going to be training with her, or some kind of way.
Well, that was the original. Finn was supposed to be the Force guy.
Yeah. Not
Rey. Rey was just supposed to be the Leia character. So that's why they did it. And what really pissed me off with Force Awakens, trust me, I saw Force Awakens 8 times in the theaters. I broke my record. Rey's character was useful, but she did not need to be that Jedi. I would have loved to see Finn do it.
Because I think the training would have been a bit more different.
Well, not even that, dude. Even in his canon story, he was good with hand-to-hand weapons in his stormtrooper training.
Yep.
So he was naturally skilled at a lightsaber, which would have made more sense, because think about it. If they went that route, he would have been a badass Jedi up there with Luke.
My thing that, and we're getting way too far off topic on this, but
yeah,
my whole thing is that I don't agree with the attitude of anyone can be a Jedi.
No,
I don't agree with that.
You're born with it. You're born with the ability.
Yeah, I don't like that whole anybody can be a Jedi, because not anybody can be a Jedi. Not anybody can be a Jedi. Not anybody can be a Sith. It's something inherent and in
well, not even that.
That's within you.
Well, with me though, a Sith, okay, yes, that could be inherited, but say I'm born with a sense, force sensitivity, right? And say I'm getting bullied and my anger is just getting worse. Okay, cool. Sith's gonna find me and they're like, cool, join me. All right, cool, bet. You know. But Jedi, it was very, if I remember correctly in the canon, it was Jedis were like force sensitive kids were very, very scarce across the galaxy.
So
you can even see it in the map in Jedi Fallen Order. When he actually opens it, there's probably maybe at the most, if you look at it, streaming close, there's probably maybe 20 kids. Maybe.
Well, 20. I do like Carol's decision though. He goes, "Nah, we're not going to worry about that." Because who's hunting them?
And this is actually going to go tie in with the Anakin when we'll get back on the segment. I would have liked to have seen Anakin in The Rise of Skywalker. Like, have him show up.
Well, he was in the original story. He was, because the scene, the concept I saw was he was supposed to show up. Remember the scene where it's Kylo Ren in his room with a mask?
Yeah. It
was supposed to be Anakin as a Force ghost, but it's half of him was Vader, half of him was Anakin, kind of like the light and the dark.
Yeah.
And they're supposed to be pulling at Kylo, Ben, be like, trying to like conflict him. The other concept was Anakin was going to show up as Anakin Skywalker and convince Ben not to go that route. But for some reason, Kennedy had to like ditch that idea, which would have been a perfect, because we talked about that, Steve.
Yeah.
It would have been perfect.
The one guy that actually helped you understand like the route you're going down is going to cause you more pain than the route you should go down. The route that you don't want to go down is a difficult path. But it's the path that is going to turn you into a better person. The path that you're going on now, like, literally, he could have told him, like, Ray could have killed you and left you to die. She could have left you to die.
Well, there was a scene that they were going to put in the movie where, and then after this, we'll get back to our topic, but, like, remember when Ray was fucking him up?
Yeah.
Well, it was supposed, when she had that face, it was supposed to be Snoke communicating to Ray going, kill him, be my new apprentice. That would have been very cool to have, because it would have been like, alright, cool, so Rey is pulling some dark side tendencies. Obviously, because her grandfather. That would have been a really cool transition, but...
Right.
Please, because I'm getting fired up.
So, let's take it this way now, alright?
Alright.
You are a Jedi Knight, and you are given this boy from Tatooine. The Jedi
kidnap a teen from Tatooine. Sorry.
You've been given this boy from Tatooine. You are entrusted with training him. You are told that he could be the chosen one, but there's no 100% surety in it.
Okay.
All right. Now, you are briefly told of his background details by, newly appointed Jedi Knight Obi-Wan Kenobi. Right. So you know that he's come from a slave background and everything like that on Tatooine. So now you have the understanding of who this boy is that you've just been handed over. All right. So I'm gonna start with you, Raheem. What do you do with this boy? What as his new master? All right, you've been entrusted with this older Padawan. He's much older than what you're normally used to as a Jedi. I think he was age 10 in Phantom Menace. Yeah, age 10 or 11. So he's much older. He was 10. Yeah.
No, was he 10?
He had his birthday in Phantom Menace, so he was 10.
Yeah.
Okay.
So he's much older than what you're used to in a Padawan. All right, and let's throw in another wrench. Let's say that you've trained a few by now. Right?
Okay.
Let's say that you're kind of a farmer when it comes to
you're being considered for master at a certain time.
Yeah, pretty much.
Oh, for me this is gonna go kind of
all right
nuts.
So you've been given this boy now. So what do you do? Well, what do you do as his new master?
Well, one of the first thing is I want to know. I've heard the background that my Jedi counterparts have given me. Now I want to hear from him, from his own point of view, because they only have up to the point where they met him. I want to know more about him.
Okay.
I want to hear well, why do you want? Essentially, give him the questions that Yoda asked Ezra in Rebels, like, why do you want to become a Jedi? And I would get my answers up like, okay, I understand that. And then I would slowly start understanding, like, okay, what are the things that you did on essentially getting to know him essentially.
Mm-hmm.
And then I would build off of that. All right. And now, what do you know about the Jedi? That like, how much do you know about the Jedi? How much do you know about the Force? If his knowledge is very minimal, which it very was at that point, I would instruct him in that before lightsaber combat, because my philosophy when it comes to because I was essentially going to be a teacher at one point. My point of it is you have to have the knowledge, then you have the experience.
Yeah.
And once you have the knowledge, because a lot of the characters who were strong characters that we all primarily agree with, they were strong in the Force. They weren't hard, lightsaber combat fighters. They were strong in the Force, and for me. That's how I tend my how I would learn for myself, because I like Form 6 Neiman, which focuses more on Force sensitive abilities than actual combat. So I would train him to know the Force, but also to understand all aspects of the Force, because that was one of the downfalls of the Jedi Order, is that they did not at all explain what the dark side was. They didn't explain it all. They said there is a dark side.
Well, they don't teach you that in the temple.
Exactly. And I want to understand, like, these are things that lead to the dark side. I'm going to teach you about them, but we're going to try and stray from them. I want you to understand what they are. And then after about a year or two of that, I would teach him lightsaber combat. And then essentially, as he's growing, he's going to start to get, as teenagers usually do, they get impatient, they get rebellious. You have to find out what the source of that. You have to find out what the source of that is. We have to find out what the source of that is, and once we do actually figure out what that is, because a lot of teenagers, they act rebellious because they feel their voice isn't being heard. They're not understanding why certain things are happening to them. And once he does get to that age, he's going to get to the point where, like, I know what I need to do. I'm ready for the test. If he says that to me, then I'm like, you're not ready.
Yeah.
Because you've seen it in a lot of media and a lot of books as well. When students try to tell their teachers, like, I'm ready, they're usually not ready. When they feel like when they have those doubts that make, can I actually do this? That's when you know they're ready.
Yeah.
Because they're not sure of themselves, and that was one thing to actually point out. When you become too sure of yourself, you become overconfident. Your ego starts to get in the middle, become a problem. So, and the one thing I would establish that I had trouble with growing up is patience, because once you have the patience, you have to be able to understand the world a whole lot more. So
that's really fair. Honestly, with me, I decline. I wouldn't take him in. I would take him in. What I would do is I would actually use the Force to get more information from him, and I'd see what has happened. You know what I'm saying? What's going on, and see his future, and I'd be like, I pass him off, because like seeing that, I'm like, I'm not gonna take the risk of dealing with the older Padawan. I'd rather have someone fresh to work with than him, because I would know for a fact that what he's gonna turn out to be, I'm not gonna teach him anything, because he's not gonna use it.
True.
So that's my thing. Like, I'd pass on Anakin if I was a master. I'd be like, nope. And I'd recommend to bring up to the council, like, can one of you guys who are more experienced take this kid in?
All right. So here is how I would approach it. All right. I would agree to train the boy. All right. And my summation on that is it's better to train him and have him managed than not. So the first thing I would do is take his background as somebody who's caring and whatnot, and use that to my advantage. I'd start putting him in charge of little things that he can care for. Little tiny things that he can care for, eventually leading to big things that he can care for. So foster that nurturing nature. I'd also sit there and decline to have him train with the other Padawans. because the bullying would be very real.
Yeah.
And I would not want that to happen.
It's like being a 13-year-old class in a room of 10-year-old kids in elementary school.
Gifted. Gifted class.
Yeah, let's... Billy Madison.
Ooh.
All right?
Yeah.
Billy,
Yeah.
We have a Billy Madison situation there, so that's no bueno. All right. Also, another thing that I would do is I would raise the red flag on Palpatine constantly checking on him. I would sit there, and one of the first things I would do is I would be like, why is this senator from Naboo, this councilman sitting there constantly reaching out to this boy? This boy is not from his planet. Yes, I realized he helped save Naboo. All right? Yeah. But beyond something like a medal ceremony or something like that, the contact is not needed. Period. The contact is just not needed. So on the instead, I would sit there and constantly be like, listen, I need to get a hold of a council member, a senator, somebody from Tatooine about this boy's mother. And I would fight tooth and nail to get his mother on Coruscant. Out from her slavery contract and things like that, I would fight for this boy to have his mother, because that's the fair thing. Is this boy needs his mother.
Fair.
All right.
And one of the things that's actually pointed out in the Clone Wars as well is that any mention of slavery around Anakin, he fires up like extremely fast because he hates it.
Yeah.
He despises it.
So I would constantly be like, if Palpatine comes knocking on my door and is like, I wish to see the boy. I'd be like, well,
I like that.
I would be like, well, that's very interesting. You're not from his planet, and
facts.
I don't know why you want to see him. Perhaps you should talk to the council about that. But as far as I'm concerned, right now, no. But if you could put me in lovely contact with, the lovely senator from Tatooine, I would greatly appreciate that, because, I need to talk about this boy's mother.
I'm sorry, I can just picture, cool, talk to the council, and all of a sudden the Jedi, something's not right. They all stand up.
Yeah,
we got you, bitch!
There's some serious red flags there. And I mean, I would even have a problem with Padme visiting him.
What? See, you sound, and things, people, guys, Steve is actually a parent, and he sounds very much like a parent right now. As I'm hearing, I'm like, this is a dad talking right.
But he's not. But he's not wrong though, because I wouldn't let Palpatine anywhere near him unless you're right. Either talk to the senator of Tatooine and talk to the council, because, like I just said, the council could probably sense that if Palpatine stepped into the chamber, they'd be like, "Wait a second, Darth Sidious," and then all hell would break loose. Now, Padme, on the other hand, first off, that's some creepy shit. Yeah, if you ask me,
it really is. So, I don't get me wrong, I wouldn't annex the boy away from her.
Right.
All right, that's not what I'm saying to do. It's just under my guidance and tutelage, there wouldn't be that relationship there. And here's why I say there wouldn't be that relationship there, is because it would have been put a squash to from the beginning, because he'd know that he has to focus in on his training. I'd let him know about the dark side. I would let him, one of my great passions, as everybody knows, is reading. I love to read, so we'd be spending a lot of time in the archives studying.
Well, isn't it true that there is a section where you have to get permission, because there is, correct me if I'm wrong, see, I know you know more about this, Steve, that there is knowledge of the Sith in the archives.
But it's only can be established by the Masters, though. Yeah.
Okay.
Which is why Anakin wanted the rank of Master, because he wanted to actually look into the archives about that.
Yeah.
That's okay.
So, it's I wouldn't say, let the boy access forbidden knowledge.
Oh, yeah.
But, more like the reason why I encouraged my daughter to sit there and read 1984 when she was growing up. Read 1984, read Fahrenheit 9/11, read these books, because they're important books to read. So same kind of thing. We're going to go into the archives, we're going to look at some of this stuff, because it's that fundamental understanding of what it is. And then after all that is said and done, when he is older, and I'm talking older, then we start working on lightsaber combat.
So you're saying like around like teenage up to where he was at, like right before where he was at in Revenge of the Sith. Kind of like the Clone Wars, like age. Okay,
yeah, like
that's fair because
right around there, because then then we can get into that stuff. And if you really think about it, at this point, under what I've been doing to the boy, the Republic wouldn't be at the same level of war.
Yeah.
There would be no reason for clone troopers or anything like that yet for those ideas to even be introduced, because Palpatine's plans are just falling completely apart because I'm not letting them progress, because I'm sitting there being like, you're a completely different senator from a completely different planet, and it is completely inappropriate for you to be talking with this boy.
Well, let me sidebar real quick. Like, you made a good point when you said lightsaber combat older. Now, I will give credit to Obi-Wan and A New Hope because he didn't start... Luke was, what, 17?
No, he was like 19.
In A New Hope? See, Obi-Wan started him on lightsaber training around 19.
Yeah.
Which made sense because what people don't know is, like, Luke was very profound with the lightsaber, like, in between that shit. Yeah. So, like, he knew how to fight. Now, fighting his dad, Vader, okay, that's a different story. He wasn't ready for that because Obi-Wan died before he was training. Learning how to actually fight. Because if you think about it, if Obi-Wan was alive and training Luke, kind of like how he trained Anakin, Luke would have already been proficient. So, like, during the time of the Empire, he would have been able to counter Vader easier and would have kept his hand, goddammit, Yeah.
But, like, the big thing that I would do, though, is I would foster the nurturing. I would fight to get his mom out of the situation.
Out of the hut situation.
Yeah, I mean... Even if it boils down to like a rescue mission.
Well, can I ask you something about what your plan was? Now, would you actually have Anakin do a lot more flying missions since he was already a good pilot, or would you kind of ground him?
I wouldn't ground him. That's another way of fostering that caring thing.
Because this is what
like flying
he cares about.
Yeah, like okay, so like on the flying subject, all right, fostering that caring, we run aid missions. We're dropping off food and supplies
to different systems.
Yeah, I'm letting him behind the wheel and seeing like and have him out there passing out the food and whatnot. Going, see, we're making a difference.
Right.
Because it didn't take one giant battle to make a difference. Yeah. Doing these things actually help people more than those giant battles.
Well, and that's the thing though, because like in Anakin's time frame, like he was getting trained during the war. Yep. And that's kind of like you were saying, that's kind of bad because like everyone's talking shit like, oh, get out of here, Jedi. And what people don't realize is, I hear this all the time, people bash the Jedi because, oh, this and that. I'm like, they were trying to do good. Every time they would come in to help you guys out, yes, damage happened, but they were fighting for you guys.
Yeah.
And that's how Anakin was trained by Obi, was, hey, we're keepers of the peace. I will give Obi credit that because he did train Anakin, hey, your lightsaber is for defense only.
But like, again, I don't think the war would nearly be at the level that it is with Obi-Wan training, because I have blocked Palpatine from being able to manipulate the toy that he's manipulating.
And people who saw the Clone Wars in full, because everybody believed that Siddi's plan before the Clone Wars was introduced, that his plan was masterfully done. But anybody who's seen the Clone Wars, there were major holes that could have literally messed everything up. Well,
the line that Palpatine said at the end of Phantom Menace, and you, young Skywalker, will look at your career with great interest. Right there. Right there. He was eyeing Anakin the entire time.
Yep. I'm surprised Obi-Wan didn't see it, but...
Well, I think he did, because if you look carefully, you can see like this look, like... You know what I'm talking about? Like, He's like... Something... I think Obi-Wan knew the entire time. I think he was like, something's not right. Because remember, Palpatine, every time he showed up, Qui-Gon and them, got uneasy.
Yeah.
So they knew he was a Sith Lord. I think what they were trying to do is, even when Anakin was with them, they were trying to like try to figure out what's up, with their force, with their visions and shit. Which, Palpatine is kind of smart, though, because he kind of clouded it. He clouded the visions of the Jedi Council, so when he was doing his little dirty work, they couldn't sense something was wrong until it was the last.
Well,
again, my primary mission with this whole thing is to remove the chess piece from the board.
Right, which is block Palpatine completely.
If I remove Palpatine's ability to use Anakin, then that's a big, that's a big thing removed. Now, going into this as a D&D player, sitting there, sitting there and using out-of-game knowledge, I'm using in-game knowledge on the instead is more from the personal point of view would literally be, it would make me very uneasy because, again, we're talking about this older guy who's sitting there and he's pulling this kid aside constantly. It's something that rings very uncomfortable.
Well, and my thing too, though, is how I'm trying to phrase this the best I can, was Anakin got Sith mind tricked very bad because Palpatine did lie to him. Because if you think about it, if he would have used that power, the dark side power, and saved Padme, I guarantee he would have went back to the light. But Palpatine fucked that up and made him so angry and so powerful, he killed his wife. Which was weird. Because, when he choked her out, if she's dead or dying, the babies are dying. Which, that was a key thing. That's why Anakin was so powerful, was because, the twins had so much force that kept him alive during the birth. Yeah.
One of the things that annoys me that I constantly see on Reddit and constantly see on the internet are all these photos and depictions and everything like that, and of Anakin being with his family. And one of the things that constantly bothers me about all these little rendition artworks and everything like that is the fact that Obi-Wan is in almost every single one of them. And to be quite honest and quite frank, if things had gone the way they would have, and Anakin would have been let out, and he could have raised his kids and everything like that, Obi-Wan wouldn't have really talked to Anakin. He would have been far too busy with Jedi duties and details, and maybe the occasional space email, but
and
occasional visit,
yeah,
but nothing regular beach trips and shit like that. These kids
space beach, okay.
But these kids, Luke and Leia never would have sat there and been calling,
Uncle Obi-Wan.
Yeah, he would not have been Uncle Obi-Wan. It would have been a completely
and since you brought that up, because if you really think about it, once the kids were old enough, Yoda would have, if Anakin killed Palpatine, the Sith are gone. Anakin, Luke and Leia, Yoda would pull them when they were so young, probably around infancy, and raise them and train them. If you think about it, if Yoda trained Luke and Leia as kids, they would have been the most powerful in the galaxy. If you think about it, with Anakin Padme on the side. And just imagine if Anakin, Leia, and Luke fought together as a family, bad guys beware, game over.
Yeah, it's a pure game over situation.
Which I'm gonna jump over to Rise of Skywalker real quick. That flashback scene actually brought some joyness to me because I love the fact how Luke explained how he was training after the events of Jedi, how he trained Leia, and he told Leia you're a Jedi, you have Jedi in your blood, use it.
Yeah.
And he trained her on Endor. You could see him, him with the, training Leia. And Leia was a badass. She took her brother down. And it's and that's why I love the scene where Luke's looking up
yeah,
damn.
One of the things that they actually point out, you guys already noticed as well, is that if Leia had actually stayed with her, if they had actually continued the training and not taken the path she went, she would have been equal or more powerful than Luke. And the thing
I would say she'd be up there with Luke. She wouldn't be at the same level, but she'd be powerful enough.
I think her force abilities differ greatly than Luke's. So
yeah.
she would have been powerful in a different way.
Yeah.
Right.
I think Luke would have been a very adept.
Now Anakin
lightsaber user, but I think Leia would have been a very
she'd be more force user. But the thing is though, even if that happened, whatever, like you were saying, Anakin would have communed with his kids and told him, like, kind of trained them via the Force, which that could have been a plus, you know, if Anakin side, you know, whatever.
Yeah.
So, but like, you know, my way of handling the whole Anakin situation is greatly,
nurture him.
Is greatly different than both of you guys'. I don't know if my way is the right way.
Well, one thing you and I did agree on is that we would help. We would make sure he knew about the dark side of the Force. This isn't something that you just don't.
That's one thing that Mace Windu disagreed with Yoda on. That's one thing I disagree with Yoda on. I know a lot of, even Plo Koon disagreed with Yoda on.
Yeah.
They all insisted that these kids know of the dark side, because you know, to know your enemy is to defeat your enemy. And that's just a simple concept that, you know, more people should embrace, because that's how it should be.
And you know, no disrespect though, but like I would have just declined it, because I would have saw what was going to happen, and I would have avoided that situation altogether, because I don't want that blood on me. You know what I'm saying? Whether I got killed by Anakin in the future or whatnot, but like I'd be like, you know, I'd admit it too. I'd be like, listen, I'm not ready for this. I'm like, Master Koon or, you know, Master Windu, can you take the boy? And then after you do what you need to do with them, then I'll take him. You know, because I would rather have him, because honestly, if I was a master, I'd be more into the combat, the lightsaber, you know? And I'm like, cool, teach him the Force, teach him about the light and the dark, and then when he's ready, send him over to me, and I'll make sure he fights. You know, but I'm not gonna have all that teaching on me when I can visually see with the Force, you know, what's gonna happen later on down the road. And even in Rebels, that scene where Ahsoka, you know, when she's like, you know, Anakin, you know, he's about to take out Ezra, and like, you know, he goes, you know, it was foretold that you would be here. And all that stuff, and she's like, you know, Anakin Skywalker, blah blah blah, and then he's like, Anakin was weak, I killed him, and that line where she's like, you know, I will avenge him, you know, get revenge on him, and like Vader was like, you know, revenge is not the Jedi way, and she's like, I'm not a Jedi anymore. And that one scene though, when she takes out his mask and you see, you know, Ahsoka, you know, and she's like, Anakin, you know what, and he's sitting there just breathing. And all of a sudden he goes, you know, you will die. If I was Ahsoka, I would have, you know, fucked him up, and I would have taken him somewhere and tried to like force heal him.
To end it at this point, there was one thing that a lot of people said that Obi-Wan actually lied to Luke about. And he said that Darth Vader killed Anakin.
Yeah.
And the thing is,
I don't think that was a lie.
It was
actually, it wasn't a lie.
It's explained in Rebels, because he said it to Ahsoka, like, Anakin was weak, I destroyed him. So he did destroy Anakin in his own way.
Yeah.
Just the dark side destroyed Anakin.
Yeah, exactly.
He didn't. Yeah.
So before you completely close it out.
Yeah.
All right. I'm going to end on a fun question.
Yes.
All right. This is a fun question from me to you guys. All right.
You can answer this below in the comments as well. You guys aren't excluded from this.
So, what color lightsaber? And we're talking every color that's available.
Yep.
What color lightsaber and why?
Green.
Green? Why? What do you think would attract the crystal to you?
My ability to want to understand the Force in all aspects of it.
Okay. All right. Dave, what color lightsaber and why? Why would the crystal be attracted to you?
Blue. Because the way I am naturally, and my ability to commune with the Force, and just the fact that I'm the type of guy that I defend my honor.
Okay. All right. I'm going to go old school, not new canon. So, Legends, whatever.
Still counts to all the freaking nerds out there.
I'm going to go with the old canon, not with the new bullshit canon. Red.
Okay.
All right? And the reason why I say that is you have to have real guts and real patience to go into the mines on Korriban to get those crystals. You have to have the patience and the diligence.
Well, to all our viewers out there, you can tell he's a Sith.
But no, what is one thing known to all of you guys about me? What is the one thing that I have going for me? It's my patience.
Yep.
Oh, sorry. I didn't do that on purpose, guys. On purpose. And you do have patience, and I'm going Sith on you, okay, man?
Okay.
I'm being real, and it's your ability for power.
Yeah.
It's real talk. No, seriously, guys. Like, this is my brother, man. I love him to death, but it's his ability to like be in charge and pretty much command. So that's why I say power, because unlimited power. I'm kidding.
I don't see him as Palpatine kind of. I see him more as Pelagius.
No. Him. I see him like Old Republic, so like the badass.
Okay.
Oh God, what's his name?
Revan?
No, not Rev.
Malice.
Malgus.
Yeah. Malgus. Sorry.
Minus the respirator, because you actually have your
minus
lungs.
the respirator. But so let's put some rules out for the comments. All right. Color of the lightsaber. Why the crystal would be attracted to you, and you can either use the current canon, or you can use the quote-unquote Legends canon. We'll say the old canon.
So,
you can use either or.
Real quick, back to what you said about the color. Okay, so I'm going to pull a Luke, because I'm a Luke fanboy. I kind of go the same path he did when he went from blue to green, just because of me as a Jedi learning and growing with the Force. My color would change, depends on like where I'm at in my point in my life.
That's a good thing. Do you think your color would change at all from green? Like, think back to young you and think back to you now. You now choose green. What crystal do you think would have called out to you originally?
Young me. Oh shit! That's.
Yeah, going through the cave. What crystal do you think would have called out to you? This is a hard one.
I'm being 100% honest with myself, because I know my younger self so much. It would either it's either two colors, because I know the backgrounds are both. It'd either be blue.
Okay.
Or it would be yellow.
Okay.
It would either be blue or it'd be yellow.
All right. What now? The yellow crystal is one of the hardest to find.
Yeah.
What would make that call out to you?
Because as a kid, I had this annoying ability of doing everything until I couldn't do it anymore. So the harder the challenge would be, the harder I would make on myself. And people wonder, like, why do you put so much pressure? My parents told me, why do you put so much pressure on yourself to do these things? Because if at the end of the day I don't feel I put my all into it, I'm not gonna want it.
Yeah.
Like even when it came into like working in general, if there was something I wanted, like if I didn't work as hard to get that thing, I would not take care of it as much. And you see that even when people when they buy something, like when they get a car, and especially if they worked hard to get the money for that car, they take care of that car like it's a queen, like it's the light of their world, essentially.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And people are just like, okay, here's $1,000. Go get whatever you want. They just like, I got the money, okay, that's it. But when you work hard for something, you value it so much more.
That's a really good damn answer.
Yeah.
I like that.
Yeah.
And I could see you as yellow because there's another meaning behind the yellow crystal, and I could picture you yellow. Yellow, real talk.
Green is the way of, because when I did the research for green, guys who are usually green tend to focus more on aspects of the Force, which is what I like to understand mostly. I'm not a lightsaber comic type of guy. Steve already knows that because I need a lot more training
than I am.
But I tend to drive more on the Force more than anything.
Well, see, I don't go by like, no offense, but I don't go by like the way you research it. I go by what the canon says when it comes to the crystals. Like, I like, the reason why I would go from blue is I know green is consular, and green is pretty much like you're pretty much a defensive peacekeeper. Yeah. Blue is pretty much, I forget the name of it. I think it's Guardian.
Yes, it's Guardian.
Yeah, it's Guardian, and that's more attack, attack at will.
Well, these were the guys who most likely who were ready to defend at any time.
Pretty much, yeah.
All right. Well, I think you finally have a good point to wrap it up on. So we're gonna let him wrap it up.
All right, everyone. Thank you for tuning in. As always, let us know what you think in the comments. Who would be Anakin's best teacher? What is your lightsaber crystal, and why? As always, is Aaron Mongo. Take it easy.